Welcome to Westphalia.
Machines! The Ruhrgebiet, Germany's greatest region. Once you've taken in just how stunning the nature and the architecture are, then you'll almost certainly find yourself wondering, are there any British people here? The answer, of course, is yes. We get everywhere you don't want us to. But the more interesting question is how long have we been here and what nefarious activities have we been engaging in? You might think that we came with the end of the Second World War and left as the Cold War era ended. But actually there have been groups of Brits in Westphalia since long before that. And we played an important role in the shaping of the Ruhr area as it is today. I'm Jasmine Sainsbury, a Brit who lives in the Ruhrgebiet, and today I'm going to take you on a journey to the Industrial Revolution to find out just what we were up to in Westphalia back then. Machines like these are perhaps the first thing that comes to mind when we think of the Industrial Revolution. But what did they need in order to make these machines? Indeed, they needed iron, and a lot of it. To find out just what we Brits were up to with iron, we're first going to have to get a little bit technical. So, bear with me. Producing steel, known then as wrought iron, has 3 steps. Firstly, you have to turn the ore into iron. The iron you get from this is brittle, so the next step is to refine it to make it malleable. And the final step is to shape it into bars and rails to sell. Previously, all of these stages had used charcoal as fuel. However, from the end of the 18th century, coal-based methods are gradually invented and introduced. One of these new methods was puddling, a method for refining iron that was invented in England. Contrary to what the name might suggest, it did not involve jumping in puddles of molten iron. Instead, a specially built puddling furnace was used to heat iron up to a specific temperature, and it was then stirred continually for up to 50 minutes straight. Puddling was normally done by a team of 2 or 3 people, 1 puddler and 2 assistants, who were sometimes women or even children. It was a highly skilled craft and also a highly dangerous one. Most puddlers had to retire by the time they reached their 40s, something which sounds like sci-fi to us Zoomers, though becomes a little more realistic when you consider the trade-off was an early death. There was also a new method for the 3rd stage, the shaping of the iron. Where previously it had been hammered into shape, it could now also be rolled. Think how if you've ever made pasta, the dough is squeezed through a set of rollers, but the rollers are rather a lot larger. And instead of dough, it's iron, and rather a lot more of it. Not that the Germans seem to notice the difference, as they call them both teig, which would explain a lot about their cooking. So what role did the Brits play in all of this? Rolling and puddling were both processes which got themselves established in the UK first. Both were skilled crafts which required training on the job in order to be learnt. So Germany looked abroad to other countries, such as the UK and Belgium, to try and find experienced workers who could bring the skill across. So let's take a look at someone who hired British workers. Friedrich Harcourt. You might recognise the name from the previous episode. He was the son of a businessman from Hagen, with an interest in industrial technology. In 1819 he set up a machine-building factory, die Mechanische Werkstätte, in Wetter an der Ruhr, and hired many British workers. Just building machines wasn't enough for Harcourt, so 7 years later, in 1826, he opened a rolling mill and puddling plant right next to his machine-building factory. To get the thing off the ground, Harcourt needed Brits. Or rather, he needed experienced puddlers and rollers. And so in early 1826, he set off for England. He was successful in recruiting a handful of Englishmen. His first master puddler was a man named Macmullen, who soon changed his name to Max Müller, his first hammersmith Lewis, and his first roller Swift. But they were certainly not the only ones. These specialist metalworkers allowed for the transfer of skills, teaching local workers not just here in Wetter Castle, where Harcourt's factory was located, but also in other German ironworks. It didn't take long before the Germans too were able to puddle, and even pass on this skill to other Germans. The British puddlers, however, maintained a level of status for their experience, and the fact that the names of the first British puddlers in almost every puddling plant are still known to this day is a testament to that. This did, however, mean that they and the other specialist metalworkers were rather expensive to employ. To help ease this, rather than hiring a full team of puddlers, shinglers, welders, and rollers all at the same time, ironworks would typically hire 1 or 2 puddlers, and then only a few months later hire a roller, and so on. As the metalworkers had generally come over in groups, they still tended to maintain their connections with one another. This quite possibly sped the learning process up, as the puddlers had a wider variety of experiences, constantly learning to adapt to new locations and teams. Hör mal, das ist ja eine Currywurst-Alarm. Gibt's mir im Pott. Komm, wollen wir uns eine Currywurst von der Bude auf der Hand holen tun? Lecker, oder was? Olaf, you're a historian. Tell me about how iron producers were able to make it work with so few British workers back then.
Das Machen von Eisen und von Stahl hat viel mit Erfahrung zu tun zu der Zeit. Wir haben keine Messgeräte und man brauchte ganz einfache Erfahrung, um zu sehen, wie Prozesse ablaufen. Das musste man lernen und dafür brauchte man erstmal Experten, die sich damit auch auskannten.
So, why did the puddlers have such a special role?
Die Puddler hatten ja die Aufgabe, stundenlang in einer Roheisenschmelze so lange zu rühren, bis der Kohlenstoff verbrannt war und dann verformbarer Stahl entstanden ist. Da kam es auf ganz viele Sachen an. Wie fühlt sich das an beim Rühren? Wie verändert sich auch die Flammenfarbe? Und die Puddler waren tatsächlich Experten, die das genau beurteilen konnten über Stunden eines anstrengenden, körperlich anstrengenden Prozesses. Und das waren Facharbeiter, das waren Experten, die entsprechend gut bezahlt wurden und auch gut 4-mal mehr Geld bekommen haben als die normalen Eisenarbeiter zu der Zeit.
So, they really did have a special role. The Brits, however, weren't without problems. A lot of their pay went on booze. In a similar ironworks in France, one historian did the maths and calculated that the puddlers spent an average of 31% of their wages on wine. And judging by Harcourt's complaints about his own workers, they also seemed to have a propensity to drink. Their attitude in general was not well received. They knew that the ironworks couldn't function without them and continually sought to leverage that. And of course, the metalworkers didn't make much effort to learn German, and so Harcourt had to communicate with them in English. The British puddlers did not end up staying particularly long. They were successful in their endeavours, and by the 1850s, the Germans could manage on their own. The cost of hiring the British puddlers meant that many of the groups of metalworkers returned home to the UK as work and extra pay for them dried up. While the puddling process itself was a success, financially, it was not. Because of this, the relationship between Harcourt and Camp, his financer, broke down, resulting in Harcourt being kicked from the company. In 1837, his puddling plant, hammer mill, and rolling mill were separated off to form another company. The puddling process itself was soon replaced, but it played an important role in the transition to industrial processing, and Harcourt's factory was a part of that story. Olaf, was Harcourt's story a one-off?
Harcourts Geschichte hat natürlich dauerhaft Bestand gehabt. Die Maschinenfabrik blieb bestehen. Das heißt, dieses Wissen, was damals nach Deutschland gekommen ist, wurde natürlich auch weiterentwickelt und hat den deutschen Maschinenbau begründet. Von daher hat er eigentlich die Wurzeln für diese Entwicklung gelegt.
The beginning of a puddling industry in Germany quite simply would not have been possible if it weren't for migrant workers. Coal eventually triumphed over charcoal as the cheaper and more easily abundant fuel. And that leads us to a good question, actually. Where did all this coal come from? Stay tuned, as in the next episode, we shall take a look at the Brits beneath our feet.